Hey, everybody, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I am your host, Ben Thomas. You know, from broadcast studios to houses of worship and racetracks all the way to theme parks, digital communication these days is key, not only outbound, but internal as well. You know, and as we step into this new world of digital communication, especially in AV, a connected environment and a connected communication system has never been more important. And there's nobody that's seen that change firsthand more than Bob Boster of ClearComm. And Bob just happens to be my next guest. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today on Pro AV Today.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Really happy to have a chance to talk about what we live and breathe every day, which is people talking to each other to get stuff done.
Well, Bob, like I said, it's great to have you on, and you have really a unique insight being in the industry for quite a while, but being specifically with ClearComm for almost 20 years at this point. Nobody has the insight that you have, so we're excited to hear a little bit more from you. But one of the things that I talked about in my intro was an application of theme park communication, and that may not be something that people would think of off the top of their head, especially someone like an integrator who's been installing studios and control rooms for years. But I was actually just at Universal a couple of weeks ago and saw one of their new rides implementing ClearComm technology. You know, talk to me a little bit about the life cycle of where we are in communication technology, because we're seeing it roll out in some of these newer markets and unexpected places.
Sure. So there's a number of interesting things that are sort of coming together around the same time, sort of a convergence opportunity that I think has really served us well and served our customers well, which is digital applications of regular communication stuff we've been doing for 50 plus years. Party line intercom has kind of migrated over to a platform that is easier for people to install, certainly more reasonably priced for large scale operations, and also people expecting and really imagining that everything could be wireless. So you have sort of IP, both local and, let's say, global scale IP connectivity coming into play, and also wireless, and people expecting wireless to be everywhere all the time because they carry these devices around with them that is the same kind of thing. So they have that expectation in terms of communications. Both of those things have come together at a time in which it's more important than ever for people to be able to talk to each other in real time for a bunch of different reasons. Security and safety of guests, attendees, audience members, parishioners, whatever category you want to call the public. Certainly being able to do more things with fewer people, right? So you have technicians and other production staff who maybe need to wear 4 or 5 different hats during the course of their day. Being able to connect those people together so that they can do that dynamically and kind of change roles and talk to the people they're collaborating with, that sort of functions in a kind of a very dynamic way. And then things pulling apart, right? The distances of production teams, some people doing stuff from home, some people doing stuff from remote operations somewhere in the park or in the entity or in the theater or a satellite campus of an educational institution or a satellite church of a church that's in multiple geographies. All of those people needing to be able to interact together to produce stuff and to be able to kind of monitor what's being produced in real time over those technologies. So we do all of those things, and we kind of have building blocks for helping people realize a solution that brings all those pieces together. And in a lot of ways, brings those pieces together to add on to or enhance existing infrastructure. So one of our, I think, best and most important North Stars that we keep an eye on is try not to make people throw things away. Right? If they can use what they've got today to get the job done, and we can bring in the part that allows them to connect it, you know, across the state or across the globe, or add in the wireless in the frequencies that are now available to us, which weren't necessarily available 20 years ago when they put their other infrastructures in, that sort of building block mentality that allows us to help somebody scale or design a solution is really the way we tend to work, right? It's not, here's the solution. It's, what do you need to do? Okay, well, we have these different pieces. Let's see how they come together in terms of solving your problems.
Well, look, you bring up a really good point, right? And it's something that I think a lot of people, even in the house of worship market and more traditional markets, have a challenge with from time to time. And that's a retrofit, right? You guys do a great job, like you mentioned, of finding ways to make existing technology work, not only hardware, but this is something that we're also seeing in whether it's the education market, the IT market, where people are literally bringing their own device into the ecosystem. Could you talk to me a little bit about how you guys are integrating kind of that BYOD style approach into the tools?
Sure. So we have a pretty I think now well accepted and popular product called LQ, which is basically an IP intercom appliance that you can bolt onto or attach to any existing intercom, not just our flavor of intercom also, but even the other guys' intercoms. And that device does a few different things. Its sort of original concept was it allows you to connect two different locations together over IP, whether that's over the internet or over a WAN or a LAN. You can connect different parts of the intercom together. But another thing that LQ box does, it allows you to host a mobile client that gives you intercom on your mobile device or on your PC. With as many channels as that particular intercom box. So there's different numbers of channels of that version. So you could have a 2-channel version, a 4-channel version, or an 8-channel version. But it will host software clients that you can run on a mobile device. And now your phone, your tablet, whatever device, and could be something that's dedicated to the production team that they maybe have as donations from somebody who's recycling their old phone. Could be that you put it on somebody's phone for the day because you only need that person in that work group for that particular event. And then on the next day, you're going to assign that license to somebody else. But in any case, whoever using their own hands-free in their ear, so you're not sharing headsets, which is maybe not the best thing in this particular time and space, really allows people to sort of extend the intercom dramatically. And we've seen that be wildly successful for media production. So a lot of the shows that we've seen, sort of the explosion of let's say high profile TV productions really starting to use more film style production technology. But a lot of those people don't want to be on set because they're trying to keep the number of potential sources of infection down to a minimum there, so they can call cues from their back porch on Lake Tahoe while they're shooting in New Orleans, no problem. Very easy to do. They set up their tablet, they can talk to the cinematographer, they can talk to the producer or production assistant on the set, just right there from their tablet without any problem. And that same tablet is also likely streaming the live shots of what they're getting from the production to them. So it's all right there in front of them in one platform. That same thing works well in a church environment where you have a lot of volunteers, but you don't necessarily have a dedicated intercom that you want to hand over to them. But everybody comes to the campus with their phone. It's an easy download and easy to configure them into the system. So that works pretty well. We find that it's been a very popular way to extend the intercom, maybe beyond the core production team to the next row out, or maybe even 2 rows out, to include the support team, security team, the people who are doing janitorial or facilities, all of those other groups around the event where maybe you want to be able to add those people in.
Well, you bring up a really great point, right? The thing that technology has done, and one of the things you guys have done a great job of, is finding ways to transcend some of those traditional use cases or traditional markets, whether that's a theme park or whether that's a multi-site house of worship venue. But what are some of those other markets that you're seeing demand for? Is it, you talked about safety, but what are some of those other ones that you're seeing demand for?
Sure. So first of all, just given our audience here, I want to just take a moment to kind of give some credit to the people in the AV market who brought us to all of these different interesting workflows and applications over the years. Because what I found is people in the AV market, many of them came from live performance, rock and roll, live production. That was their backgrounds. And then they were looking for a way to kind of continue to move that into their professional lives as they, let's say, grew up a little bit and had, demands needed to pay the bills, et cetera, et cetera.
No, none of us have ever grown up. That's why we're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Those people knew ClearComm from those environments, and then they had communications requirements at, let's say, a doctor's office where they're doing work inside your heart. So the doctor was like, hey, I need some kind of hands-free thing to talk to the guy in there who's controlling my visualization system so I can look down inside the aorta to scrape out any problems you're having inside your heart. What kind of thing do you have that can allow me to not have to like really work on like wearing something or whatever? Like, oh yeah, I know ClearComm's got a thing. They've got a little boom mic. It'll point over your mouth. You can be working in there, talk to the guy in the control room. We've been doing medical stuff in that environment because people kind of came up with, hey, you know, ClearComm probably has a tool for this 30 years ago. Similar kind of thing. Maybe even 35 years ago, we got into offshore oil exploration and the offshore industrial activities on ships. The service tenders that serve the oil rigs, the people who are exploring underwater with remote operated vehicles, all of those people we're the industry standard for the activities on those ships. So the ship itself has another communication system for steering the ship and navigation and that part. But when the people on the ship are doing their job, whether that's sending a crane over with food to the oil rig, or it's drilling underwater, looking underwater for drill sites, inspecting pipelines, all of that activity is done on ClearComm communications platforms. We're in theme parks. We're in today. I just found out today, like literally this morning, about an opportunity of a company that's doing new designs for spacesuits, new technologies for spacesuits, and they needed a test platform to be able to have the testers who are wearing the new designs of the suits talk in full duplex while they're walking around in these different environments to test. So they're using our wireless intercom for that. So these are classic applications of, hey, people who need to talk together to do something. We're not the thing that they want to do. They just need to talk to each other to do the thing. So launching a rocket, drilling for oil, working inside your heart, making sure that the ride works at your favorite theme park. All of these different kinds of applications, museums. So we have some fun applications at the Steinhardt Aquarium, for instance, where our communication system allows for people to talk to the diver in the tank who's feeding the fish during the live feeding show. These are all sort of, each one of them is kind of a one-off, but collectively you see this this image form of people who had needed a solution to a communication problem and came to us and were like, okay, well, let's see, what do you need to do? Start drawing it out on paper, and next thing you know, we've got a design using all the building blocks that are in our regular catalog to get somebody to a solution that they need.
Well, Bob, that makes me laugh. I tell people all the time in the industry that the original UCC was the telephone and the comm system. I mean, you watch a movie like Apollo 13 and you alluded to it, the spacesuits, but the fact that we were able to communicate, you know, however many miles away on the moon is incredible, right? But that's a solution that we've kind of figured out, and ClearComm in a lot of ways has really helped pioneer the enterprise communication as well. You talk about some of those use cases, whether it's a venue or an installation, now obviously moving a little bit more because of a post-pandemic world into what I'll call the enterprise business market, right? Office buildings, education, things like that. You know, how do you guys transcend the mindset of maybe the kind of custom use case? So whether it's at the, a movie theater or a NASA spacesuit, how do you translate that into a more repeatable and almost ubiquitous use case for these new enterprise markets?
Well, I think there's a couple parts to it. One is we have historically worked through integrators and other kinds of resellers who are really technical people who understand and have an understanding of what our offering brings to the table. And that allows us to extend our reach by having there be 40 or 50 people around the world who could do the same solution that my guy could do if you call my guy directly. So both are fine, right? It works out either way. I'm happy for the person to talk to somebody who's in their time zone, maybe talking to them in their native language, who has questions about what they need to do to make that communication thing come together, and that specification can be designed. So yes, it is a little bit of a challenge sometimes to think, well, a lot of these things are sort of one-offs and you're having to design them as one-offs, but actually we sort of see them kind of come together as something like this, right? A design that does this kind of thing and addresses these kind of workflows. So one of the great ways we've tried to address that is by putting a huge library of system diagrams on our website that sort of specify these different kind of workflows and talk about what the design challenge was and then how we address the design challenge. So somebody can go on there and look through that library and go, well, my thing is kind of like this. Okay, so I can print this out and then I'll call my local guy and say, hey, I need something like this, but instead of 4 positions, I need 6 positions and I need one more room over here added on, but it basically looks like this kind of thing. And so trying to express those as sort of workflow concepts so that people can latch onto those and kind of imagine themselves in those working situations has been really helpful for us in doing that, as well as just continuing to educate our partners, the AV community, the integration community about how to solve these different kind of problems as we bring new tools to the toolkit, because of course we're always innovating and we're solving new problems. So we need to make sure that everybody's aware of how those things fit into the toolbox.
Well, Bob, interestingly enough, anybody who's watched this show for a while knows that I'm very pro integrator, but we live in a world now where the end user, for better or worse, is more educated than they've ever been, whether that's because they've researched it on YouTube, whether that's because they understand a lot more of the technical specifics. Maybe they volunteered at a church or in technical theater. And what that's done in a lot of ways, you see it specifically a lot in education, some of the newer markets where people will kind of forego the traditional integrator path, maybe design their own workflows, design their own systems. How do you deal with bridging that gap there? Because it's a massive challenge, but how do you deal with those audiences?
First of all, I treat anyone's question as a question we need to answer, right? So let's just start off from the baseline is we have technical people in our organization who are there every day to help whoever gives them a call or sends them an email or communicates in whatever other kind of mechanism to say, hey, I'm trying to do something like this. Can you help me? Right. And so as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care whether that person is an end user or a reseller or an integrator or a consultant or an interested third party who's trying to help somebody out, right? All of those things could all be part of that group, and we're happy to help those people for sure. The other thing is just to try to give people access to information that has been assembled over time in all the different ways they could possibly want it. So we have a huge I talked about our system diagrams, which is, I think, a great way to visualize a system, but there's also a huge knowledge base available on our website that people contribute to every day from all over our organization and really from all over our user community that is available to people. So somebody can type in a question about, hey, I'm trying to do something like this, or I'm trying to do this with this product. Can you help me figure out how to do that? I need to connect my intercom system to my CCU for my camera. Okay, what camera system do you have? Well, all the different pinouts are all in our knowledge base. So all you have to do is know what the CCU model number is, and we can get you there. So a lot of that stuff, we've tried to make that available so it's user accessible on demand when they can get what they want when they want it. But if it comes down to it, send us an email and somebody will answer your question. And I'm happy with that. And I'm also happy to say to that person, hey, so I see what you're working on. Is there somebody I can connect you to who's closer to you than I am, who might be able to help you out with that? Here are some 3 resellers in your area who have some expertise in this. Are they known to you? Sometimes it's just a question of making an introduction. It doesn't have to exclude an end user tech support challenge, doesn't necessarily end up meaning the exclusion of our partners either.
Well, I love that approach, honestly, because it helps in a number of ways, not the least of which is removing the gatekeeping from troubleshooting and trying to retrofit things and fix things and on the back end. But Bob, I'll give you the last word here. What excites you the most about really the next generation and the next era of digital communication?
Well, so two things which I can link together. So one thing is people are finding that full duplex communication available to them wherever they are standing at that moment, whether that be over IP or wireless or a fixed hard connection, is more important than ever, right? Like walkie-talkies are not getting it anymore. Telephone service is not getting it anymore. And frankly, neither is sending a text message and waiting for somebody to respond to you over a chat thread or something. More and more people are seeing the value of a full duplex way of working than ever before, and that's very exciting. Within that, we are bringing more tools to the marketplace every day that put all of these different threads, IP interconnection, wireless, all of our applications, all of that into a common platform to simplify the way somebody might build a system like this. So our newest Arcadia product is a great example of that. It's not the only example of that, but it's certainly a good example of where we're headed with trying to bring all those things that everybody needs different pieces of, and maybe to different percentages or different levels of integration together into a single easy to manage box. That kind of goes with the more people, more places, more different ways of interconnecting people in a full duplex workflow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Boster. Bob, thanks so much for joining us on the show today. Your insight has been incredibly helpful, and I love the vision for where you see the community moving forward. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time and your attention, and keep talking to each other.
And thank you for joining us on Pro AV today. Be sure to tune in next time.